By the time we're done testing it, I believe it's pretty much invulnerable.
And that's pretty much what they said about the Titanic.
That's right.
Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science, the most authentic voice in true crime. Well, banging has relocated the sub-search with less than 24 hours remaining. And that brings up the question, how do you look underwater for a needle in a haystack the size of, well, bigger than the state of Connecticut? Well, you don't look with your eyes underwater. You look with your ears, certainly in terms of an ocean scenario like this. Trying to listen, say, for climbers, for signs of life on a mountain, in other words, in air, that would be folly. But water transmits sound more than 4 times better than air. And thus, listening for that needle makes the haystack you're working with basically 4 times smaller. So instead of looking for something the size of Connecticut, now you're looking at something that's equivalent to the size, I guess, of Rhode Island. Makes a difference, right? The good news is sonar has picked up banging sounds specifically in the area of the haystack, in the area of the search grid. According to The Guardian, quote, search aircraft with underwater detection capabilities picked up a banging sound every 30 minutes for several hours. And that has also been repeated by CNN and Rolling Stone, citing US government memos. But the emails did not make clear when the sounds were picked up, just that they've been going on for hours. In fact, 4 hours. Besides these banging sounds, other sounds were heard, but they were not described as banging. Before we get to the rest of this episode, if you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do. Like, share, leave a comment. You can also hit the thanks button, and let's get started. It's obviously difficult to say whether these sounds are mechanical. Mechanical sounds can also be repetitive banging, or are they man-made? In theory, a fishing boat doing maintenance in the area or perhaps raising an anchor might make a similar sound. But this is, on the surface, good news. Those with experience in differentiating these sounds, mechanical from man-made, they seem to feel that these were signs of life. If so, that might indicate the submersible and those inside are ship-shape, perhaps doing okay, and perhaps all that they lost was some kind of electrical capability. And thus, where they are, they're lost in the cold and dark, but safe for the time being.
They're not out yet.
Before we start cheering and breaking out the bottles of champagne, we are still in a very serious situation, and it's still a critical race against the clock. According to The Guardian, quote, the Coast Guard's announcement came after US reports cited internal government memos that said that the banging sounds were at 30-minute intervals and were picked up by crews specifically searching for the submersible. And that was after an explorers organization said, we understand that likely signs of life have been detected. What's also been going on is they have been searching with remotely operated vehicles, ROVs, obviously unmanned, but those have come up empty-handed, but those are going to be continuing as well. One also imagines that robot-operated vehicle from the French ship must have arrived in the water, either has arrived or is about to arrive. The critical question now, if there are signs of life, is how deep below the surface is Titan? Even if crews find the stricken vessel, you might think, well, at the moment that the vessel is actually found and you lay your hand on it, well, then the rescue is complete. But it's not. It has to be raised to the surface. It has to be opened. Opening it is going to take time. I think opening it can take as long as an hour. There are all sorts of bolts that have got to be loosened. In effect, we're not looking at 20 hours of airtime remaining to find the craft. We're looking at finding the craft and then being able to provide it with additional O2 if it's below the water, right? And perhaps while it is still very deep below the surface, and that is easier said than done, that would be quite a tricky maneuver. So if the sub has a depth meter and power to ascend, that should improve their chances. But I would imagine they're in the situation precisely because they don't have power. I would imagine there's some kind of electric fault, and that is why not only they lost communication, but why they are invisible, essentially. Why are we still looking for them on the third day? They disappeared on Sunday. Today is Wednesday. They have enough resources on board, certainly air, for just less than one more day. By Thursday, they will have run out of oxygen. So unfortunately, if it's a case that another vehicle needs to rescue the Titan from the bottom of the sea, then the odds will be against a successful rescue, simply because I don't know if there will be enough time. Obviously, it's good news that they've located a sound, but now they've got to sort of home in on that sound, and that is where the sight part comes into it. And that part is also easier said than done. Hearing a sound in the dark, well, you've got an idea where it is. Seeing it, trying to actually locate it specifically, is not so easy. If the occupants of Titan are still alive, and by all accounts, given the latest news, it appears that they might be, and if they're at the bottom of the ocean, they're likely cold, scared, and possibly wet with condensation. They're also likely sitting in the dark, waiting, and intermittently banging, and hoping for someone outside, someone out there, to sort of swoop down and rescue them, right? And that is one of the best case scenarios here. What's likely, I believe, to have happened here is the craft sprung a leak, and this caused a short and caused them to lose power and thus communication. If that's true, and the craft ultimately sank to the bottom, then, as I say, survival and rescue is extremely unlikely. If it didn't spring a leak, then you could have a better situation, but the question then remains, how did the electrics short, if indeed that is what happened? And so one thing that is coming to the fore is, for a leak scenario, seems likely that it could be due to the legal and factual contextual fabric that involves carbon fiber, right? What was very unique with this vessel is that they were using carbon fiber as a sort of untested material for these extremely deep dives where you've got extreme pressure on a particular material, right? And carbon fiber at these depths is apparently an unsafe material. Did OceanGate crack the secret to using a cheap material like this at these extreme depths, or did they fail to do so, and we've just found that out now in this particular misadventure? As far as I know, OceanGate have said that this craft that descended didn't use carbon fiber, but I'm wondering whether it did. And I think the safety narrative, whether this was an accident or negligence, is going to be part of the aftermath to this story. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.